Right, I think we are live. So let's just give everyone a few moments here to join the webinar. I'm very excited about this webinar that we choose to host. It's the first of its kind because for this webinar is specifically focused forward to agencies. And in the webinar, we're going to talk about how to monetize gamification. But let's just wait a few moments. I hope you had a cup of coffee or something like that here in the morning. At least here where I am, it's 9. Spent just the last 20 minutes or so preparing for the webinar, and then we're ready to go. So let's just give everyone a few more moments to join. I got my Scratcher cup, Scratcher logo, merch and everything. So I hope you all agencies out there, you also have some merch as well. So this is a webinar, and I'm your host. In the bottom corner over here, we have a section where you can ask questions. So if I sometimes change my angle and look over here, it's because I'm just checking to see if you have any questions, polls, or anything like that. I have one of my colleagues who is sitting and moderating, who can also help with answering questions if I don't see it personally. Sometimes I can get into the flow a bit too much, and I might just go in one direction. But please remember that this is an introduction. This is how to monetize gamification. And for most of you, each individual agency business, there's so many different kind of agencies, so you can monetize in different ways. And we are very open to have a dialogue with you afterwards. Or if you see this past recording, just reach out to us. Either write to me at nikolai@scratcher.io or contact us on LinkedIn. You should be able to find us. If you just find Scratcher, find employees, you can find me or my colleagues, and we'd be happy to help. But it looks like a lot of people are joining now, so let's get started. I hope you all can see my screen. It looks like it's like that, but else you just type out there and say, oh, it's not working or whatever. But else, basically, let's talk about how to monetize gamification. And now it works. Short introduction to me. I'm Nikolai. I'm a CCO here at Scratcher. But besides being a CCO and very business-minded oriental, I have 10 years of experience in marketing technologies. I'm also a super golf nerd. But actually, this slide is a little bit old. I recently started climbing and bouldering, and that is really, really fun. If you haven't tried that, you know how much it stings in the arm when you're green. But down below, you can see my LinkedIn handle, and you have my phone number, email. So if there's anything, any specific questions, we'd be more than happy to help. We do individual workshops with agencies as well, where we tap into your specialties and your specialist team, your thoughts, and look at your client base. And we can actually help to identify what opportunities you guys have. So the next hour we're going to spend with these different topics. There's also minor topics in between, and I will also have a chat about that. But basically, we're going to talk a little bit about the landscape 2023, why it is that it is a good topic for you to discuss with your clients. We're going to talk about how gamification can be used to engage audiences. We're going to talk about good benchmarks. These you can also look at what you're doing today and see if you fall below with the current benchmarks that you have for the business that you're either working with or you're thinking of working with. If they're not performing as they should be, then there's a big opportunity for gamification to come in and help and improve the work that you're already doing today. Then I have some top funnel games just to give you some inspiration or some ideas, some campaigns I picked that I think is really, really excellent and very well done. Of course, I got a bit of tips and tricks and some questions by the end. If anyone has any questions, I always see that maybe there's not so many questions coming in the chat, but please feel free afterwards to send me the questions directly. So for those of you who don't know Scratcher, I saw the list of the participants here, and I know that some of you are already some of our partner agencies and clients. And that's actually because we do have 2 different kind of licenses or ways to working together. We have one directly with the end consumer brands. So if they have an in-house team and they don't work with agencies, they can get a Scratcher license. But also we have partner agencies where we basically partner up with various agencies, support them in the business that they do. And then we actually offer a license that they can then create, design, and pass on to their clients. But Scratcher is a leading gamification platform designed for marketeers, e-commerces, and businesses. And it's a very user-friendly platform. We have more than 300 clients. And I can see it says 5,000 gamification campaigns. That's great. That's the first typo of the day. we actually have done more than 17,000 campaigns throughout the years. And one interesting fact that I will share a bit later, but the average conversion rate, you can try to get what the average conversion rate of all 17,000 different campaigns that we've done throughout the years, what the conversion rate from participant to actually click and register and complete a game. But feel free to take your guess in the comment section. I'll reveal it a bit later. But let's discuss the landscape for 2023. We're moving in to a quite hectic year for most businesses. Or hectic, let's say it's a bit thrilling to see what direction it goes, especially here in Europe, Denmark, where Scratcher is located. We see the prices is increasing due to inflation, and we see that consumers is a bit more careful in what they spend. A lot of research shows basically that consumers are sort of holding back on their business. We also see that people are being let go in various areas. So basically, consumers are a bit more careful with the money they spend. So consumer spend is down, and that result, of course, in increased competition. But it also increased usually in, if you're B2C company, that you get a little bit less margin and you sell less, and then there was a lot of discount going on in the market. We also, on the same time, have experienced for the last many years that privacy and freedom, the request for those for the digital footprint, they're constantly increasing. So it has resulted and is continuously resulting in fewer insights and less tracking moving forward. We have everything from cookie tracking, and we also have saw last year there were some changes and bans with Google Analytics. So we have to be able to start owning our data even more, and that is definitely something that you as an agency can really tap into this conversation about multiple stakeholders in the company. Basically say, hey, it's not just about collecting email permissions, it's about you reclaiming the data and not building your brand on rented land, such as Facebook Meta situation. We also experience, speaking of Meta, that there's of course less accurate ad targeting. So these platforms, they constantly say that you can target less due to GDPR and targeting legislations going out. But now you have to trust our AI to do the job. But a lot of brands is experienced that the less accurate ad targeting, especially if you have niche target groups, it results in a decreasing conversion rate. And of course, the same goes for lesser personalized messaging. For instance, if you have that in emails, it will then result in lower email click-through rates. Also, opening rates are more faulty than ever due to tracking issues and protection issues from iOS, etc. So there's a lot of data that the average brand is losing out on. And as an agency, this is a storyline that's really compelling for you to tap into, because that is one of the areas that gamification can actually go in and help these brands reclaim their data. And another question again is it important that it's a consumer brand? No, not at all. So it's the same story for B2B. I would say it's even worse for B2B, because they have also been struggling with the fact that a lot of their potential customers, they prefer to do the research phase 70-80% before they even contact them. Even in the research phase, they might even not contact the person. So adding a layer of gamification will actually entice a bit more to actually reach out to them a bit sooner. So it's a bit more soft conversion style. Another, of course, thing that's happening in the landscape is that we have increased SEO and SEM competition. And of course, it makes sense that when your ads are performing less well, then you actually move some of that spend to, for instance, SEO and SEM. And that's in order to find the people who's actually searching in the market. The same goes for when the competition is up and that the consumer spend is down, means that they will search for what they want, and they are more likely to engage with good SEO results and SEM results. So of course the competition shift there, because that's where you can actually get a pretty good return of ad spend in that space. But of course, when the competition increases, it will also increase its cost of focus for maintenance, or even upping the game and in that area as well. And back to Meta. Well, clients or consumer brands, they end up paying for the same visitors because they can't identify them. They say no thanks to cookies, etc. So over a year period, you could actually happen to pay good money on Facebook for some click-through rate actions, and you pay for the same customer. But in reality, if you've done your due diligence and actually picked up along the line and compare, you would have to actually attract them again in a very expensive manner because they would be in your universe or even member club. So definitely try to talk into or ask brands if they're seeing this increased customer acquisition cost over time, and then you can actually I'll talk a bit about how gamification can help decreasing this customer acquisition cost. So of course, all these different slides basically leads into the fact that it is getting more expensive for the brands to succeed, and it's basically tapping into the different margins of success. And of course, when it's a market that is changing and the landscape that is changing in terms of less spend in it, it gets really, really hard to become a business, a successful business. But whether it's because a company is struggling or whether they just want to stand out, then gamification can be something that could be added. As I mentioned previously, I have some benchmarks and some more data that I would love to share. Just remember as well, if you have comments and you are part of this live, just go into the chat. I have a second screen over here. So go into the chat, type in some comments, and I'd be happy to answer them as well. If you're seeing this and it's not a part of the live webinar, but you're seeing it from in the future, then say hi from the future. No, reach out to me on LinkedIn, the email, or you have it in the presentation on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And as I mentioned earlier, we do offer workshops or personalized demos to you and your agencies, maybe your specialists, to see if it could be a good match to offer gamification to your clients. So this slide here, for you who is not planning on downloading it, take a screenshot of this slide, even though, of course, the centerpiece is in Danish. It's just an example of a gamification piece, watching that on phone. But these 7 steps are some of the crucial steps or areas of focus that you can focus on when you're thinking about applying gamification, or you could just call it interactive content, because that is basically what it is. So, of course, lead generation. I think everyone knows what lead gen is, but one of the key areas, and I asked a bit earlier, what's the average conversion rate from traffic to permission lead gen on our last 17,000 campaigns, and we convert 35% on average. So that's pretty good. If you have 100,000 visitors to a landing page or game page, you would get 35% of those who actually give away their permissions. It all depends on, of course, on campaign and so on, but that's average numbers. So lead gen, getting permissions. A lot of e-commerce shops, they don't have the permissions, even though they actually have customers, because it's not legal in Denmark, as an example, to just tick it off and say, okay, automatically subscribe. But this would be actually a great way to make sure you actually get them, and then map the permission with the purchase information, and then you would have a lot more information in those. Now, I just mentioned in the previous slide that's important, more important than ever, to, of course, stand out. That, of course, taps into branding. So with gamification and Scratch, it basically allows you to make some really, really cool content pages, landing pages, or interactive game pieces where you can really position your brand in a very nice way. And one of the very cool things about this, you don't need to involve IT or create a lot of technical stuff. You should be able to create that straight away in this. So, of course, if you're an agency focused on top funnel branding awareness, maybe it's a product launch, then there's a lot of different ways to basically create interaction for that client. Of course, sales, it should be number 1, but it's number 3 who just took it 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. But generating revenue with gamification, that's also one of the most well-known applications of it. And it goes everything to add it to your mail flow and basically run out campaigns, participate in the lottery. But also you can have these consolation prizes. A very, very good tactic is basically to use a consolation prize and say that maybe there's a big prize you can win, a year usage of something. But actually, everyone who participates, they get 20% off, or they win a certain price. But if you get a time limited 20% off, it's much better for your branding that instead of having a side week, discount. because that will just give the perception from the clients or the consumers in the end. They will just see that, okay, I'm just going to wait next time they have a discount. And then you're going into the discount trap. But if you actually just run it as a campaign, they will feel like more special and unique. And they will feel like when you get a consolation prize, they'll feel like, ooh, I actually won. You don't have to say, oh, you lost, you got a consolation prize. You can just make sure they always win 20%. And you can always put in like lesser prices, like 5% and 10%, to make the 20% even more compelling and even more unique. That is something that really pushes a lot of sales. So that's quite effective. If you also want to push sales to your physical stores, a very, very easy is to make sure you offer something for them that they can only pick up at your store. So if you are dealing with a customer who is in clothing, maybe they can wear a pair of socks or underwear, but they have to pick it up at the flag store or the store where it's actually important. And then you are actually starting to create a footfall and drive traffic into those stores. Then, of course, we have loyalty, because one of the really important loyalty and activation, I would say, one of the really important things is that once you actually manage to collect a lot of lead gens, you have a very nice email flow, and you've collected a lot of permissions and interactions. You, of course, want to make sure that your customers, they stay with you and they find your communication interesting and compelling. And creating various interactive game pieces, content, quizzes, competitions. You can make sure that every time they see an email from you, they will read the headline twice to find out, should I open this mail or should I interact with it? And from there, you can, if you have compelling offers or games, you can increase the click-through rate by having a piece of game inside it. Data enrichment. Well, that's the second part of lead gen. I'll talk a bit more about data enrichment later on, but this is really, really important for your clients as an agency, that you can really add on to them, and you can speak with someone else than maybe your normal peer, and you can actually start to add an extra value. And when you start to add this data enrichment layer rather than just lead gen is more like campaign based, but data enrichment is always on. So this can improve your stickiness and make sure that you can actually be a part of the long-term strategy and reduce churn friction with you and your clients. Of course, I can't go into detail with all of these elements in this webinar, but yeah, that's some headlines here. Omnichannel, well, I discussed a bit about how to send from online to offline, but of course, I have some great examples of going offline to online as well. I have an example, it's a top funnel campaign that collects a lot of leads and generates sales, ties them together. I'm going to show that a bit later. So if you haven't already taken a screenshot, do please take a screenshot of this, discuss internally with your agencies, but here's a lot of approaches on how to engage using gamification and ideas for your clients. So in the introduction, I talked a bit about benchmarks and what benchmark you sort of can expect to see or what you should be looking for. So it's a few slides here. I'm just going to go a bit fast through them because you can always look through them extra. There's a link I provided to a lot of our cases and success stories at our website, but these are stats taken from various reports on the internet. And if you Google gamification marketing stats, you'll find a lot of good stats. So you can see that we have an average conversion of campaigns to 35%, what I mentioned. But what's really, really interesting is that there are some reports that actually share the growth of the next 3 to 5 years, and that every company in the next 3 to 5 years, they'll have some way of having gamification implemented because it's interactive content. And we don't have to be like, oh, we are super posh brand, we don't do this kind. Well, it just needs to be on brand, as I'll cover a bit later. Some reports say that up to 60% of consumers are more likely to buy if they enjoyed playing a game. And we can see that in terms of interaction rates, conversion rates, click-through rates, and a lot of the different statistics can basically see that people just enjoy a good game. And of course, there's various definitions of a game. It doesn't have to be something like a Counter-Strike or any of these huge esports games. But it's just like making a little bit of fun interaction. Maybe you know the Google game. Sometime the Google changes and then you can have a drop thing. It's just fun and interaction. How many haven't you tried that? If you worked in, is it HubSpot or Marketo? They also have a little bit of small games when you wait for campaign to launch. and you can play a small game while you send out emails, etc. This is the same, it's idling, but if you idle while you can also win and interact, maybe you can learn something else about it through an interactive quiz or an element. So we have more than 25 different templates to give you some ideas of what works. If you have, in terms of lead gen, if you have a normal pop-up newsletter sign up, like save 10% by your first purchase, or sign up to newsletter to get latest news, those convert an average of 2%. But if you add a scratch gamified content pop-up on your page with a spinning wheel, scratch card, something like that, we see an average conversion of 10 to 12%. So it's basically, if you have 100,000 visitors on that page, why settle with 2,000 permissions instead of getting up to 10,000 permissions, 5x? If you have that data activate an email, retarget, etc., well, it's a no-brainer to just think about gamifying content. When you have a specific landing page and you're driving a specific campaign that you designed around this to your client's website or to your client's quiz or content piece, we see that up to 40 to 60% actually signs up for this. I brought a campaign that I'm going to share you. I can briefly take a look at this. It is a crisp bag, and they have a very, very high conversion rate in the offline stores. Basically, you scan a QR code and you go to the landing page and you sign up. And of course, that has a very, very high conversion rate because you sort of know what it is that you're going to do. Who doesn't want a higher click-through rate, interaction piece? Because when you can't see opening rates, click-through rates is even more important than ever before. But gamified content in general has a 3 times higher click-through rate. And that also means that when you are actually getting them through, you get them away from Facebook and you get them to your universe. So you sort of reclaim the data and you can start to work with the data from there. Increased time spent, so an additional 1 minute and 6 is an average over the last 17,000 campaigns that we did. And who wouldn't want to have more time spent on your site, a lesser bounce rate as well. And of course, the more complex a game or quiz or personality test you have where you have to think and consider, the longer the time spent is. So all of these things have various parts in the marketing funnel or aspect that you can actually work with. And all of these dialogues are something that you as an agency can pick up and have a discussion or conversation with your client. We also see some results from cases, and you can feel free to check that out on our webpage. But the average order value for some e-commerce shops, it increases with up to 20%, and we think that this is because that the consumers, they have more fun and they're like, oh, this was recommended to me through a recommendation test, or maybe they got a certain discount that they feel entitled to use and they spend a bit more. But this was over a 9-month period. This was done, and we saw that 20% increase in average order value. Well, not bad. I'll take it. I'm quite pretty sure that my colleague my colleague Ali, he will share this slide set with you afterwards. So a lot of these slides or stats, you can take them and work with them when you're discussing or having a conversation about gamification with your clients. But so basically, here's the definition and saying that, well, marketing gamification, it just incorporates interactive elements of gaming into a non-gaming context to do a specific action or improve engagement levels. And that's basically just what we went through. But a lot of people, they focus on the gamification element, but what could actually be more interesting is the interactive element, because it is interchangeable. So if you're talking with a more modern, playful brand, you can use the word gamification. But if you're talking maybe to a bit of a B2B company or a bit conservative market, you would probably want to tap into the word interactive element or interactive content instead. So I already mentioned a few areas of where you can actually use gamification or utilize gamifications. So this slide is about placement. A general thought of gamification when we have a conversation with you guys as an agency or with the end consumer brands or services for that matter, it is they sort of think, oh, it's on our website, or maybe it even lives in an app or a pop-up. So this is sort of the area that they zoom in on. But this slide here, actually, what I want to share with you guys is, of course, that I mentioned earlier, that newsletters is an excellent way, like having the monthly game, having the quarterly quiz, having the quarterly prize, having the knowledge of the week, or are you wiser than, do you know of this, what's hiding behind the scratch card, scratch and find out. So a lot of these activation will make the newsletters a bit more enticing, a bit more interactive, instead of just having promo stuff and ads coming up. Click into our website and get 20%, see our new product. What about how much do you know of our new product? So a lot of people is obviously psychologically geared to be more curious when it's a question rather than it's just an ad plastered to your face. I would love to have, of course, some question from you guys as well, but I'm just speaking here to the camera. Then, of course, a lot of, for instance, travel brands, they have travel guides, but why not, instead of having, this is why 5 tips on why you should go to USA, as an example. But then the question could be turned around into an interactive game piece and saying like, what travel would suit you the best? Take our personality test and find out. And these are just taking basically the content that you see, turning it around to create higher engagement levels and interaction levels. Social media, you all have seen these, like, comment, tag a friend in order to participate in a competition. I'm not going to tap into the legality of those here, but why do you want to give more reach and pay more money to Facebook when you can have this pulled back to your site? You don't even get the email permissions on a platform like Meta. Now, I'm not bashing Meta as a platform. I think it's excellent for many purposes, and it's very, very easy to just, if you have the budget, to go ahead and reach your target audience. But what I'm talking about here is to make sure that you build a long funnel strategy and actually tap in and start to own that data here. Especially if you are producing a good and you're having a retailer, well, then you don't really have any connection with the end consumers. And social media is a great way to actually pull them in with some gamified content, interactive game pieces, and then actually get the signups. Sorry, my nose is a bit, it's spring here just when this is recording. And I don't know if it's allergy or what it is going on here, but yeah, I hope you survive. Then on the other side here, you can see, so we basically made the digital area online here, and then we have the offline stuff here. And a lot of your B2B clients, if you're working B2B sector, well, they do fairs, they have events, and they still do flyers as well. And there's a huge opportunity for activating all the traffic, whether it's a sales brochure or it's a product line, it's handouts, letters, if it's boxes. So if you're sending boxes, you can have, and when you open a box with your goods inside, well, you can have a QR code and you can scan it with a chance to win your next box for free, or maybe you can even get your next delivery for free, if you don't, of course, already have that service. But then you sort of add an extra layer in the end after the purchase journey, and you sort of tie that back into, and you can get them back into the game. So this is basically, I love this slide because it creates a lot of excitement when I have conversation with different people out there, because they actually see so many possibilities of where you could make really compelling interactive content. So this is one interesting agency slide, and of course I think it's maybe it's a bit simple, but I hope that tying back into all the other stuff that I've said earlier, when you're looking at offering gamification services to your clients, of course, always define what it is you want to achieve together with the client goal setting. But here is some of the services that you could monetize. So one thing is getting the idea. Well, we are getting paid to get ideas for TV ads, commercial, YouTube, etc. So the entire creative part of activating this and back and forth and having these conversations about creating a really, really good idea that resonates with the target audience. And then, of course, designing and building it for the purpose of driving whatever KPIs or goal we have. That is really, really good pre-campaign stuff. Be sure not to give that sort of knowledge away. If the consumer brand service, they're already engaging with agencies, well, they are sort of expecting this. So just because you are selling a service, be sure to also to charge for it. Setting everything up through design and creating the really, really nice brand, there's definitely a few hours there to put in for that. Making the copy for the game and the interactive content piece, not just the copy for the game itself, but also the advertising for the game, driving the traffic, find out where it should be located. Should it be a physical event? Should there be flyers? Should there be a big stand here with the QR code that you can scan? Should it be a part of the product that you send out, etc.? And all of the copy that ties into communication in general, whether it's emails, etc., etc., etc. So there's a lot of stuff that you sort of can tap into here. And the same, of course, now I just said it, advertisement. So when you do and run advertisement and think about how that can tie back into the flow, what you want to achieve, it's a no-brainer to add that in as well. So automation, if you're an email agency or have the email automation as a part of that, of course, making sure that you tap into the segments that have already shown some interest, or maybe divide the different segment into different email campaigns to sort of drive traffic as well. Maybe do A/B split testing with different campaigns. Have a suggestion to have 2 different campaign types to see what does most of what you want to achieve, but even just change some of the colors to see is there one color that actually converts better than the other. Then, of course, there's the campaign running for itself. It's not me who made most of the slides. It's my graphic designer, and this is something I just made myself, so it's not so nice. Could have been nicer. But moving on to here, post-campaign part is, of course, looking into the data collected. And of course, if it's a bit more than just top funnel lead gen, then you can start to actually segment the data in terms of how they interacted, what data have they actually shared. And then, of course, you can then again start to tap into creating new flows to the different segments. So maybe if you just have, you're coming from one flow or fewer flows, then maybe you get more segments and you want to constantly trickle down and create more segments and add to those segments. So you make sure that the marble sort of falls in between the different segment legs. And then you have to create new flows and beta test them. So it's going from one email flow, you suddenly have several email flows here to work with. Reporting is always a good thing to add into that, because you can both use it as a, look what we did, we succeeded or we didn't succeed. But then again, after that, it's like, okay, these are the learnings that we actually had. As I mentioned previously on the slide with the benefits of gamification, audience insights is really, really interesting, because that's where we have the data collection from a campaign. So if it's a quiz, personality test, all of these small choices can be recorded and put into whatever, integrated with whatever CRM system or CDP that your client work with. And that will obviously enable you to provide additional value to your clients and get some of these insights and then reactivate those insights with a lot of stuff that's happening over in the pre-campaign. And then you can sort of start to create a snowball effect and create really, really awesome results over time for your client. It also allows you to be a bit more tightly knitted together with the client, a bit more stickiness. So that should also help you with your client retention plans. Optimize and reactivate. Well, I think that is fairly straightforward to most of your agencies out here. So again, if you have any questions, please just write it. I think that you are fairly anonymous. I think it's just the first name that will pop up if you ask any questions. Just check here if we have any private questions. Oh, you can actually also create a private conversation. And all right. So let's look into some top funnel converting games. So I briefly had this in front of you. And this is actually a campaign that Kim's made with Scratcher. And you can see here, let me see here. Here you go. So you can see the QR code, which is in the bottle here. And on the back side of this, so when I peel it off, then there's a code on behind of this. And basically it says that you can win a trip to Marrakesh, or you can win a trip to Cancun. But those are the 2 different new product launches they have. So basically the strategy was from Kim's also to sort of start to get in consumer action and in consumer permissions through the retailers where they're distributing their crisps, because they also were and have launched a web shop. So now consumers can actually go straight to Kim's shop and buy crisps directly to their house. So of course they are trying to sort of reclaim a lot of that data, whether it's on Meta or through retailers. They are trying to sort of get the data back, and they were doing it very strategic, very smart with QR codes and interaction. Boom, you scan it, you go into the page, and your temperature will increase the more codes you enter. After you enter the code, you participate, and then you enter your email. And if you have had more collections, well, then your temperature will increase. Very, very cool campaign, one of my favorite campaigns. And the data collected in this was names and emails. This is another, I think, is a highly, highly effective and very, very undervalued campaign. This was a shopping mall, and together with their agency, they had a goal of trying to get 4,000 permissions for the shopping mall so they can drive traffic. And if you're not aware, shopping malls always have the issue that it's very hard for them to sort of engage with the mall itself, because people mostly engage with the shops inside the mall. But nevertheless, of course, as a mall, you want to attract attention, especially if you're not in a super prime position. I don't know a lot about this, where it's actually located or prime position or whatnot. I just know that the agency and them, they would have been super excited getting 4,000 permissions in 1 year of working together with them. And I had a conversation with them actually to see if they should test if we can do some insights to help them get those permissions up going. And they made a very, very simple spin and win spinning wheel. And you have a gift card, you have some balloons, you have the very good gift card, and so on and so on. So it's very clear that this is, of course, a target audience to women and females. And this was advertised on social media. It was done on pop-up on the website, where when you look at the opening hours, and then of course in newsletters and newsletters activation was sent out to the permission they already had. They didn't have that many, but still they were sort of pushing out this campaign to everyone. They didn't have the chance to do it with a physical activation. I thought that would have been brilliant to actually make sure that people down there, they scan it, or even get this printed out and then scan it on a big poster. So you can actually get some of the offline traffic as well, who's already coming there. But they managed to collect 5,300 permissions in 2 weeks. So the agency and the client, they really crossed the goal that they had previously. And this was just a major success. They got name, email, but also zip codes. And zip codes was really, really important when I talk about segmentation data. For this mall, because if they want to understand how far are people traveling, are they willing to travel, but also in terms of messaging. So when they're saying, oh, we have a special proposal, something offer going on tomorrow, then of course they want to target people in an area where they can actually reach them by tomorrow. Really, really cool example of a spinning wheel. And I think it's a spinning wheel that actually looks quite nice and is not so cheesy as some spinning wheels can be. I think it's very, very important always to be on brand when you do stuff. So some of the examples of data points, if we talk about demographics data or hard data, we have name, email addresses, phone numbers, zip codes, physical addresses. All of these data can easily be collected. But then one cool thing when we talk about data enrichment for CDP, CM systems, and everything else is that you can also get preference-based data. And I have an example of a gamification here, where you can look into product preferences, quiz-based segmentational data, choice-related information, persona-related data, etc., etc., etc. So the next gamification content piece I'm going to show you, it actually, and sometimes I look into, okay, do you want to create top, bottom? Do you want to collect what do you want, sales, permissions? But in reality, you can actually, if you're really, really good and clever, you can create something that does a lot of everything. So this campaign I'm going to show, it works really well in all parts of the top funnel, including after conversion for retention. It collects persona type segmented in CRM. You can gather new permissions, name and email addresses, and also you can actually enrich existing permissions that you have with new data points. After participating in this, you both get, of course, more new permissions. You get more sales out of it. This is one of the cases that had 20% average order value increase. You get an increased user experience by standing out and creating something different. And you also increased dwell time on site significantly. Let's review. This is a wide awake campaign about what type of coffee drinker are you. And it's a very clever piece of content. It's a quiz personality type interactive content. And it was used on both social media, websites, and newsletters. And it is sort of like, it's not critical in terms of a campaign. It's It's always on. So if you can identify and find these content pieces that taps into your universe, you don't have to think of it as a one piece, but you can have it as an always on and start to work with this. And then you can take a fee for actually having this campaign being online all the time. But basically, you take the quiz, you come in from one of these placements, take the test or the quiz, and in this one, you can either be a capsule coffee machine, espresso machine, or filtered coffee machine. And when you land on one of these pieces, you actually get a link basically to click, and then you will only see the machine with the segmentation that was actually the right one for you. And this is just very, very brilliant. And if it doesn't help you when you go from this to here, you get a recommendation, then you actually have the insights now that this email became filtered coffee. So now in the segmentations, when we have an offer or promo or new something about filtered coffee machines, well, you can send this to them. Maybe you have other products that they can add and use to the filtered coffee machines, or you can even make a test to find out, oh, do you already own a coffee machine, and how old is it? Is it time for a new one? So this is, I know I said Kim's was one of my favorite campaigns. I also know Silebron was one of my favorite campaigns, but this is also one of my favorite campaigns. I am just so excited when I see some really, really good examples, and I try to get the best for you out there. So this is what I talked a bit about. Is it campaigns or is it always on? Well, you don't have to be either or. You can launch it as a campaign and run and focus your paid spend or traffic in that campaign. But you can have the long trail effect by just having it online constantly. If it's physical, if it's QR code driven, or if it's on your web page or it's a specific landing page. Let's say you're going under coffee machines and you get this text as a pop-up. Well, you're not really paying that much extra for having that online. And it's a nice game piece that you can always then go in and edit and update if you have new stuff coming in. And of course, yeah, it's a little bit like the same like I showed you earlier. I thought I actually removed the slide, so my bad. But yeah, you can see how we can, of course, boost sales, increase the reach, and so on with this piece that I just showed you. I'm just going to skip the slide because, yeah, I had it twice. So we have about 18 minutes left. I can see that you're still holding on strong there. Thanks for not dropping out. Appreciate that. A few tips and tricks here to get the best of it when you're thinking of having a gamification campaign for your clients, or either you're thinking of having a conversation with them. These are some of the things that you will either be questions about or that you should tap into. So prices. Think about how the prices that you offer, they don't have to be, it doesn't have to be something physical. You don't have to have a bag of crisps or a big travel, or you can win a car. Sometimes knowledge is actually your best friend. So also testing out what type of coffee drinker are you, that is a really, really good way to actually attract different personality types. It's also really important to align the price with your audience. A lot of people, they think, oh, I would want as many as possible, so I just want to offer an iPhone. But offering an iPhone will get you a lot of irrelevant audience and will make the data cleaning up afterwards more tedious. So think about what you can offer in terms of prices, and think about what type of audience you have. Design-wise, make sure always to follow the design guide. I think that gamification can get a really bad rep sometimes, but that is usually because you are either using a free platform or platform that don't allow you to design it or customize it to fit your customers' design guides. But it needs to be a seamless integration so that the end consumers that are taking the quiz, they can't really see that this is not a part of the brand, because that is what really converts and increases the customer experience. We did talk a bit about placements, but of course, it's always about thinking where you can place it. You have so many different areas and places to create content pieces and place it. Once you have one thing that's working, just think about how you can add on multiple content pieces that can live in various parts of the universe. And that's what I'm tapping into in terms of don't be afraid of running multiple campaigns. The more campaigns you run for your clients that are continuously averting, again, the higher stickiness you have. Also a huge recommendation, and for most of what you want to do, you want to dedicate ads specifically to the campaigns. So of course, this will also, when you create 1 or 2 results, you will also be able to ask for more ad spend, more ad handling as well, or dedicating or moving for some part that was maybe used for something that wasn't working that well, and then push it over to something new and exciting, such as driving traffic to a content piece. Integrations, well, if you manage to integrate all of these things, there's of course the job of integrating the stuff. While it's still fairly plug and play, you might manage and handle the systems for them and getting the data seamless from one place to another and integrating the stuff. There's both hours in it, but also it makes it much more professional from your customer to you as an agency. And with Scratch, of course, you can implement and integrate it with a lot of email servers, CMS services, personality tools, CMS, CDPs, AIs, etc., etc., etc. If you have some weird tool we haven't heard about before, just ask us in the support. We will be happy to have a chat with you. If you're a customer with us yet, reach out to your customer success manager. If you're not a customer yet, you can reach out to me and we can have a conversation about what would be a good fit. We also have Casper, our partnership manager and CEO, and he'll be happy to have a workshop and conversation with you about this. So here is basically some of the tech stack that we have, and we see a lot of the loyalty. Agilix API is a very used tool, and some lesser known tools as well. Salesforce, HubSpot, we have those as well. So else we have Open API, so you can also pull a lot of data there, or just standard .csv file. So when you collect a lot of data, how would you want to apply it before? And obviously, you as an agency, I mean, you already know a lot of this, I would assume, but here's just 7 bullets. You can use the information to retarget the audience on paid platform, but then suddenly you have a good segment that you can upload. You can use it again to grow and increase your newsletter interaction rate, get more click-through rates, and create compelling content like reveals, competitions, quizzes. You can use it again to get the data segmentation. You can create loyalty clubs and membership clubs. You can even have premium games just for the loyalty club and membership clubs so that you can promo it, but you have to be a member of your membership club, loyalty club. You need to have the app downloaded before you can participate. You can even, if you have bought something and you have a small voucher or a small code, you can make sure that you need to have bought a product in order to participate in a specific game or something like that. If you make the prices and games compelling enough, that can also be a part of driving and being a part of sort of the club or the brand universe itself. Lead scoring, why not? So of course, a lot of the different interaction scores, if they have answered something so specifically that you know that, okay, I only want to sell these kind of machines, coffee machines, and they answered, I drink 7 cups of coffee a day, my coffee machine is currently broken and not working, I'm looking for a new coffee machine. Then the lead scoring should, of course, increase. Lead scoring usually is more relevant for B2B companies, but we can easily tap into that. Use it for feedback as well. Once you have different products, I think that's interesting with the KIMS test as well. 2 different products, not just sales numbers, but they will also see tying that into the emails and see who bought what. And when they then push different tastes, one is a bit more salty, one is a bit more chilly. So what direction are those 2 audiences moving into in terms of their taste buds? Next time they launch new tastes and campaigns, you will then be able to get some ideas on who likes what and what product should we push next. You can even ask, what did you think of product XYZ as a normal survey sort of a thing. Of course, getting all this data into a CDP, if you have really, really good CDP, you can then push all of that information. There's a lot of good CDPs out there who does a lot of good stuff. We have, for instance, Raptor, and I know of this company called Viato, where we're actually having a webinar with a client that's using Viato and a CDP for that. So that's some really, really cool stuff. Just the last sort of information, time is running out as well. But the last information about Scratch platform, if you don't know of it, you can choose from more than 20 plus game formats or interactive content pieces. You can design that as you choose. It's user-friendly, it's drag and drop. Everyone can use it. And you can easily integrate it, as I just touched upon, Scratch with your marketing stack. Of course, you can also track and analyze campaigns insights on a dashboard as well. You can get some information, sort of traffic to conversion rates, data points, and data signups, etc. And one thing that we're really, really proud of here at Scratch is we have a senior customer success team with a dedicated onboarding program. And we also have the opportunity to host workshops together with you as an agencies or tap into some ideas together with you, how to approach some of your clients. Our last 3-month satisfaction score in the support chat was 98.39%. Personally, I hate when you have a software or a tool and you need the support, you're sitting and working with it, and there's just no reply for 1 hour. We have an average response time of 3 minutes. And for all of you out there who is concerned about your high-profile clients, we are ISO 27001 certified. So all the data and terms of security, we have sort of the certification, the stamp for that. So that should be no problem of being partnering up with you in terms of that. But that was basically how to monetize gamifications. Of course, it's hard to go in depth while also covering the ground for a lot of different areas, but I really hope that you got a lot out of it. I would love for you to give me some feedback, either if you're already connected with me on LinkedIn, please connect with me. Let me know what you thought about it. And of course, if you're already with us today, awesome. We'll be happy to take over 2023 together with you, help your clients to succeed. But if you're not, and if you're interested in collaborating with Scratcher, please contact us for partnership opportunities, and I'll be very happy to have a dialogue with you. So if there's no question, I think that was it. And yeah, I think you may all have a very nice Tuesday ahead of you. And if you're watching this from behind, thanks for watching. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'll just leave the question slide here for a few minutes to see if there will be any questions coming in. Either there's no questions or people are very slow at typing. I would go with the first. But yeah, so I will say, thanks for watching and have a great day out there. And don't hesitate to reach out. Bye.